arm right next to Susan. So this is the first time I've seen it, guys. You're going to witness it with me. If I did anything right, maybe it'll work. Ah! That is scary! Oh my goodness. Let's see. Can we even move it? Oh, he's very heavy. Way too heavy. So we need to change that. And why is... Oh, because I'm picking him up by his finger. He's very heavy. Oh my, that finger is going a little too far down, I think. What do you think? So it needs a little work. I would not put this in the workshop as yet because there's some things that are wrong with it. I have to go back and really do a good job on the constraints, but that gives you an idea of what the bendy hand arm would look like in Gary's mod. Oh no. Okay, Inovade asked if I could make a tutorial on how to port a SFM model to a Ragdoll in GMOD. So let us get started. First, you're going to need your model in GMOD, and they usually get put into the workshop models materials. You're going to start crowbar. That's usually #1 thing to decompile. Hopefully you have your game info text and everything set up already. I'm not going to do that. Then you're going to decompile, look for, we're going to use the hand. So that is under workshop models. The ultimate cyborg, I believe, is the model that we have in Bendy Pack 4 arm. Okay, so once you have that in the source, you're going to select an appropriate directory to decompile into and then hit decompile. If everything goes well, you will get all of that. Now, this I left all default. You don't pretty much have to mess with any of those usually. And when you're done with that, you should check to see if in your directory, name it something that you can remember. It's always a good thing to do that. And there we have 2 files, ARM reference and ARM QC. So this is a very simple model, just 2 files. You're going to want to bring this ARM reference into Blender. So start up your Blender. You'll have your default cubes and stuff. Just hit A a couple times, delete them, and you're left with a nice clean slate. You're going to import your SMD. Now, obviously, you have to have SMD tools installed, so that's another thing to make sure you have. Then you're going to find your alphabetical order, maybe not. And the Ultimate Cyborg again. Is this in alphabetical order? I do not know. Okay, good. Bendy Pack, ARM. So those are the textures you're going to want. You can't just drag them onto, because they're VTF files, you can't just drag them into Blender. You would have to convert them first. But I'm going to copy this entire ARM directory into my Gary's mod folder. See, Gary's mod. Now you should put it into an add-ons directory if you're going to do that, but one quick and dirty way to do this, and the only way that HLMV actually seems to find my textures, is to go in here and create the exact same thing in your models directory. And make sure you spell everything right. Ultimate Cyborg, looks good. And inside there, Bendy Pack 4. Now, if you just copied the whole thing over, you'd get the other textures as well, which you may or may not need, and paste in your ARM. So now we have these textures where they need to be for this model to work. Just to check everything out, what we can do is, well, okay, so the next thing to make this into a ragdoll is we're going to have to apply some physics. And we're going to have to make little physics things for each of the bones to hinge off of. Let's look at what kind of bone structure we have here. I'm sure they're just BIP of some sort. BIP upper arm, BIP lower arm, BIP hand, and a few fingers. Okay, so this is where the fun begins. I'm going to pause here so I can mess around with it a little bit and get set up. I don't know if this is the preferred way of doing this, but I'll do what I'm going to try to do. So what you're going to do is click on the edit mode, arm reference, get into here, and select the vertexes, and you're going to, so we're just going to start with upper arm here, okay? So if you select just the upper arm and make a duplicate of that, which duplicate is under mesh, add duplicate, or you can just hit Shift D, hit enter. Now the duplicate is within the exact same mesh. You're going to put it into its own physics mesh. So we're going to go selection, P, so hit P, selection. So now we created this new arm reference too. I'm going to rename this arm fizz, if I can type. So we have an arm fizz, and it's going to have an arm texture. You can rename that fizz. It's only going to have one texture, so all these physics groups are going to have one texture. Now, this is way too poly rich. We're going to create a, so from here, we're going to select that, and you could remove most of the polygons, but the easy thing to do is to go under mesh, and we're going to go vertices convex hull. All right, now it's still kind of, I don't know, vertex rich. We can make this a lot less vertex rich by going mesh, clean up. You can decimate it. That's usually a good thing to do. Let me put half the vertexes in there. That's even still a lot. How about, I don't know, it doesn't even have to be all that much. And that's a little light on the vertexes, and it's a little small. So I don't know, just play with that a little bit until you get something that's not too, it's going to, when you crowbar it back in, it's going to even probably get rid of a lot of them anyway. But that's not too bad there. I don't know. As far as making a physics model that is fairly, what do we call, optimized, I'm not exactly sure if the best practice is for that, but you do want to get it down to a lower amount of vertexes. All right, so that is one of the convex hulls. Now we're going to make one for each of the different bones here. So rinse, repeat, and let me think about this. When you pose, that should, the modifier is already on it, so it should also move that. Let me see if I can hide this one and pose. Oops, I hid the skeleton. So if I posed this, it moves the physics. Now that's important. It's got to, the armature has to be applied to the physics objects as well. So the way I did this, it did automatically do it, which is kind of nice. So now we do the rest for all these other parts, and you select the, okay, we're going to do lower arm now. And if you selected all of it, you're going to get an overlap, and you don't want that. So you can select to deselect the upper arm and deselect the hand. So now it's just that, and that should make a decent thing there. So we say duplicate. Oh, and if you accidentally move it, like I just did, always Control Z works. Then you have to duplicate again. So I don't know why it does that, but it moves it if you move the mouse. So don't move the mouse. And then P, selection. Now what's going to happen is you're going to get another one, which you don't want multiple ones. So after you make this into a nice convex hull that you like, what am I doing here? Wait a minute. So I should be in edit mode. I hate keeps bouncing. A, mesh, convex it. So that was under vertices, convex, and yeah, I am such a klutz in Blender here. Clean up, decimate, and it looks okay. Could decimate a little more. So then to combine this one and that one, I guess I shouldn't do that until change the textures, because I think I'm going to end up with multiple textures here. So then you select that one and then the previous one with shift click, and then you're going to Control J, which joins them together. So even though ARM physics, oh, whoops, I messed up. I forgot it was up here. So that's not the one I wanted. So I have this one with ARM physics. There we go. Those are the physics ones. Control J. Now they're both together. And oh, it looks like the textures are okay because it didn't actually do it. So now you have two separate convex hulls, and they are posable depending on which one you are on. So now if I do this, that works. Okay, so do that to the rest of them, and we should be able to bring them into HLMV and see what happens after we crowbar it. Another way to do this would be to take a cube for each thing. Then you have to line it up and get it scaled. Beep. And scale it on the y-axis. Scale y. So, I mean, all of these things that you can do in Blender, and believe me, I am no expert in Blender. You just got to keep using it until you get better and better and better at it. So you could call that one of the fingers, right? But now the problem with that is, once you add it to that mesh, is that you have to make sure it bends with the given joint. So like for instance, we're going to go with the middle 0, and that is middle finger, right? Yep, I believe we'll give him the middle finger. So we have this cube, and we're going to join it to the physics. Oh, I already did because I was in there. So yeah, that's how it works. So he's in there as part of the physics. You could shrink wrap it on there if you wanted, so it would be more. You could add a few vertexes and then shrink wrap it. That's kind of one cool way to do it. And then what you would want to do to make sure that it works with the pose is you have to, what am I thinking here? So this is not linked to the middle 0 yet. So if we select, now some of my middle 0 is part of that mesh. Okay, I'm gonna have to change that, I think. Anyway, let's deselect everything, select all the vertexes, and assign it to middle 0. Okay, that works. Then when we pose and we pose middle 0, there, it goes with it. That's the important thing, that it goes with it. Okay, when you're happy with how you've created the joints, you're going to go to the export SMD here. You're selected on the physics and select SMD. You can do DMX, but I do it with SMDs usually. Then find your favorite directory, and when you hit export, it's going to say ARM Physics SMD. I'm not going to re-export any of the other stuff because I'm not concerned with messing that up. So if it's successful, one file exported, and then you're going to go into your directory where you exported it. Hopefully I exported in the right directory. So yes, then you ended up with this new ARM_phys. Now we edit the QC file. So I like this, edit here, model name. You can change this stuff because this is SFM specific, but it'll work. We have our body group. Now we need to add the physics. So let me just grab one from somewhere else here real quick. Basic collision joints is what you're going to want. Mass, inertia. We're not going to put any joint constraints in yet, so I'm just going to copy that from there. But this is what you'll want to type, roughly. This, make sure you close your curly brace, and change this to the ARM_phys SMD. And that's the basic thing you're going to need. Yes, you can mess with all these other things later. Save that off. So now that's going to bring in the collision joints. So we go into crowbar. We change from decompile to compile. Oh, I didn't change the QC file yet. Okay, so that one is under, gotta find the QC file first. That's why I named directory so I can find them because there's too much stuff on here. So armqc, there we go. Now I'm actually compiling something into my Gary's Mod directory. Here we go. So it processes the collision joints. Yay, what did we get? So to find out what we get when it's all done, it's not done yet. So the mesh is fairly vertex, considering it's just an arm, it's fairly detailed. So now we get to our desktop, if we can ever find that, and we find our HLMV. This is in your GMOD bin directory, so you can get to there from there. You're going to load your model, point to the GMOD wherever you put it. So I put it under models full tilt on, wherever that is. There it is. I can never see anything. And ARM. It didn't bring in the textures. Shucks. Okay. Well, anyway, that's another step. Should have brought in the textures. So, because I put it in a different, no, oh well, I probably got a directory spelled wrong. Okay, so now we want to look at the physics model, and that's what it looks like. Oops, that's not good. Our hand is overlapping that, so I've got to redo that. But the fingers look okay. So then what you're going to want to do is go into your physics and pick, for instance, a finger. Let's go do middle finger. So there it is. Now you're going to put in, okay, so X, Y. You're going to create some, let's see. So play with the ranges you want to be able to do. So say you want to be able to put that all the way to 180 degrees, which would make it look like, if I can move this around, there we go. So you can almost bend all the way into there. You can do the I love you, and let's see, that's the test for the X. You probably don't want Y to be able to move too far because then that would look really weird, but you can move it a little bit. So you can play with all those things. And so once you have something with all these joints that you like, you say generate QC. It doesn't look like it does anything, but if you go back over here to your that and hit Control V, you get, well, I guess you didn't even need to do all this. Okay, well, it put this in here, which is wrong. So you can get rid of everything up there. Oops, I went a little too crazy. This could actually, you may have changed some stuff, so you may want to keep that. So just get rid of your original stuff. And make sure you get rid of this as well. Okay, so then you have your collision joints that you set up if you've done it all right, which I haven't. And then you're going to recompile it and see how that works. So after you recompile, which will take a little while, you go back into HLMV and refresh it, and then you can test and see what you've done. Then it's basically in Gary's Mod as a ragdoll. You will have to locate it in your games directory. If you want to actually make it into a entity, you'd have to add a Lua to do that. So at least you'd be able to get to it. And I had to find out what I did with my texture. It was Bendy Pack with a C. That's why I didn't get the texture. So here we have it, and you can go to your physics. Let's go to hand and test. Oh, I didn't save. Oopsie doops. Okay. Well, so let me do that. So we can do X. We want it to be able to go down to about there. That's too far. So on the far side of it, we want it to go there, I guess. And on the high side, we'll let it go up a little back. Yeah, it can go all the way back there. And for Y, we can go this way and go that way pretty far. And here we go, test. Wipe on, wipe off, wipe on, wipe off. Okay, so back to generating that QC, because I forgot to do it last time. And again with the recompile. So here we are in Gary's mod. Now to find that mod you just made, you're going to, I've got a lot of stuff on here. You're going to go under Browse, Games, All, and then wherever you put your model. So here he is. Oh, hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I don't know if it was very useful or not, but maybe you can figure out how you could make your own bendy arm. And that's about all I got.